The last thing you want to do is to raise taxes in the middle of a recession.
President Biden signed a sweeping $750 billion health care, tax, and climate bill into law this afternoon.
Are you considering running for president yourself?
That's a decision that I'm going to make in the coming months.
And then to partner to ensure that we are speaking the same language.
The effort to recall Los Angeles District Attorney George Gascon has failed to collect enough valid signatures.
Joe Biden yesterday signed the Inflation Relief Act, which nobody believes will help inflation. Kamala with another one of her Kamala-isms making the rounds today. Liz Cheney, Congresswoman from Wyoming, anti-Donald Trump, are out of office. LA District Attorney Gascon failed to reach the recall limit. Holy cow, is that an interesting story? All that and more coming up on this episode of Daily Caller Live. My name is Jobob. Daily Caller Live starts right now.
3, 2, 1.
Here we go!
That might be the only brown guy on earth named Jobob.
That is actually her name, Jobob.
Live back from the dingy bunker, completely cut off from the outside world, except for you fine folks. My name is Jobob. This is Daily Caller Live. On today, it is August 17th, the year of our Lord 2022. A lot of stuff going on. Joe Biden signed that freaking massive spending bill that's called Inflation Relief Act, which spending money that the government doesn't have and creating new money. Wait, does that increase inflation? But it's still being called the Inflation Relief Act. Liz Cheney is out, among several other things going on today. Now, if you've been following the show for a while and been watching the last couple weeks, you've kind of seen the, I don't want to say tumultuousness, but we've been kind of sporadic on when we come on, when we don't, where we are, where I am. I've been doing a lot of the show from my parents' house. A lot of you know because I had mentioned that my dad has been sick for a while, and the reason that we were out and about and all over the place is because of that. So the culmination of that and the reason why we're back in here is on Monday morning, my dad went to be with the Lord, and I appreciate everybody who has sent messages and phone calls and texts and emails and that stuff and explains why we haven't been here the last couple days. And I know that this is a political talk show and there's news to get to. So I won't belabor on with things that I'll ultimately say at his memorial service. But I did want to say this. My dad and his family immigrated to this country when he was 6 years old. Lived in project housing and in family housing with family. A lot of people crammed into a small little space, him and his 7 brothers and sisters and his mom and stepdad and cousins. Never once did he or anyone else in his family think that they were less than in this country. He grew up in some rough neighborhoods, in some rough areas in Southern California, and always believed in the American dream. If you work hard, if you sacrifice a little bit, if you bust your butt and have a dream, you can achieve the American dream. That's what my dad always said and always thought. I think when I was in elementary school, he finally became a citizen and was able to vote. And a lot of my ideas and beliefs come from that immigrant family that came over here for opportunity and achieved it in every way imaginable. Lastly, I want to say, politics aside, has had a lot of time to reflect on stuff and what matters. Politics, policy, all of that stuff, that's not how America is run. America runs on the morals of the society made up by the people who act justly. And my dad was one of those people. Family-oriented, always made everyone around him feel good. And that's what makes this country work. Policy, politics, politicians, people pontificating, whatever it is that they're trying to push for re-election, that's all supplemental to people owning their section of the American dream and working hard to preserve it. And my dad did that to the best of his ability. So we'll miss you, Dad. Appreciate everything you taught me, and yeah, we'll keep the train rolling. Where do we go from here? Well, something that I think he would have been irritated about in his, I can't believe that way, is this new bill that was misnamed big, massive spending bill that Joe Biden signed into law that passed the Senate. We talked about it, the beginning of last week. It passed the passed the Senate last Sunday, passed the House, I think, earlier this week or over the weekend. But this big, massive spending bill that you should be aware of, because stuff like this matters policy-wise. I know I just said that policy is not how this country works, but it does damage the country irrefutably if it's done irresponsibly. Biden passed this the House and the Senate passed this massive spending bill, and Biden signed it into law. $750 million we're going to spend on a lot of nonsense. A lot of it is climate change. We've got a clip from CNN and Jake Tapper, Joe Biden talking about this at his speech. And, well, let me just play this clip and we'll comment on the other side. There's a lot of directions to go here. $750 billion in 2011, I think, when they were bailing out. No, it was earlier than that, like 2008. When we were bailing out big companies from the recession of 2008, the housing crash crisis, the Tea Party movement, an entire movement, was started over less money being spent than is spent right now, and nobody's talking about it. Nobody seems to care at all. Anyways, watch this clip. This kind of gives an explanation of what it is, and then we'll kind of fill in the gaps as needed. Check this out.
President Biden signed a sweeping $750 billion health care, tax, and climate bill into law this afternoon. The bill will give billions of dollars to fight climate change. It makes major changes to Medicare as well by giving the Medicare agency the power to negotiate some drug prices for the first time.
The soul of America is vibrant, the future of America is bright, and the promise of America is real and just beginning.
A major moment for the Joe Biden presidency.
The bill I'm about to sign is not just about today, it's about tomorrow. It's about delivering progress and prosperity to American families.
Okay, so that's what they're talking about. They're still calling it the Inflation Relief Act. There's another clip after this that we'll play that's pretty freaking interesting. I'm seeing a lot of the comment section saying, bring back the Tea Party. Yeah, seriously, the only segment of people in government and everyday citizens who thought fiscal responsibility was a good idea. Yeah, with government spending, it's the way you see it. This is what you get with the government spending more money that it doesn't have on things that it doesn't need. Now, what's actually in the bill, and again, to reiterate some of this, we talked about, it does give Medicare the power to negotiate lower prescription drug prices. Now, this is kind of interesting here. I'm a little bit, I don't entirely know what to think about it here. I am not for the government managing healthcare. I don't want single payer healthcare. All that is worse healthcare for more people. But at the same time, if they're going to be a huge provider of healthcare, you would want them probably to negotiate the cost of prescription drugs. That's what's happening. So I don't necessarily know if that's entirely a bad thing. It's kind of like, well, if you have a big gaping wound on your arm, you're going to want to put a Band-Aid on it. I'm pro Band-Aid, but at the same time, don't want the gaping wound to begin with. So that's the healthcare side. This I want to talk about a decent amount is the spending on quote unquote climate change and how it relates to government wasting money on projects that don't work. Barack Obama gave us several examples of that. And this is wild, just from we're going to do this again. A decade later, we're going to spend billions of dollars on climate change, probably only for it to not work. Watch this clip. If you haven't already, would really appreciate if you click the little like button, the little share button. Would really appreciate you doing that. Helps us get out there and continue doing what we're doing each and every day. Continue this ball rolling. And yeah, would really appreciate you doing so. Because people, I think your friends and family need to know about this. Check this out.
President Biden signing into law today a sweeping $750 billion climate, healthcare, and tax bill. Democrats have billed the package the Inflation Reduction Act, despite experts concluding there would likely be little to no immediate impact on lowering prices.
The Inflation Reduction Act invests $369 billion to take the most aggressive action ever in confronting the climate crisis and strengthening our energy security.
Okay, so all that means is they're going to subsidize companies that probably don't do what they promised to do. What are some of the examples of that? I think last week, it was Monday of last week when we talked about this, when it passed the Senate on Sunday. This is a week ago, not this past Monday, but a week ago. We talked about the cylinder scandal under Obama. If you don't know what cylinder scandal is, we'll get into it a little bit right here. But effectively, spending money on climate change stuff ends up being wasted in a lot of cases. If you don't know what Solyndra was a solar energy company. It received $550 million, this is back in 2008, 2009, from the U.S. Department of Energy loan guarantee. The first recipient of the loan guarantee under President Barack Obama's economic stimulus program, the American Recovery and Investment Act of 2009. Does the naming sound familiar at all? The American Recovery and Reinvestment Act of 2009. The loan program, first of its kind under President Barack Obama, took a $528 million loss from Solyndra. In other words, the United States government, the taxpayer, spent $535 million of U.S. Department energy money, and $528 million of it was completely lost. So $7 million of that loan got paid back to the taxpayer. $500 million did not from this one specific company. Solyndra also received $2.5 million in tax breaks from California's yada 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 financing authority. On August 31st of 2011, Solyndra announced it was filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection, laying off 1,100 employees and shutting down all operations and manufacturings. We are going to spend $400 billion on climate change, which, again, I am not anti-environment. You shouldn't be anti-environment. None of us should be anti-environment. But at the same time, let the private sector do what the private sector does all the time and not give money to companies like Solyndra that will end up going defunct because they don't actually do anything. Part of me thinks sometimes I should start I don't know. We are going to run cars and provide electricity on unicorn farts. And I need $500 million to start that and implement it into our everyday energy system. And if I can get $500 million from the government to study unicorn farts and how they might propel our automobiles going forward, maybe I should do that. I don't know. Maybe that's a good, maybe I'm a rent seeker. Maybe that's what we should all be if they're going to continue spending money like it's nothing. In September of 2011, the Department of the Treasury launched an investigation. Bloomberg reported in 2011 that Solyndra's $733 million plant had whistling robots and spa showers, along with many other signs of extravagant spending. In other words, Obama's $80 billion clean tech program didn't work. And all of that, circling back, if I were to use Jen Psaki's beloved phrase, you ask the question, why do we think it's going to work now? Why do we think that companies are going to honestly spend taxpayer money on clean energy programs and not just waste it on themselves? Have their CEOs fly around in private jets, even though they're supposed to be clean energy, and continue to spend opulently, not actually making any progress. When there's financial incentive, companies do what companies do. They go and seek after the financial incentive. Financial incentive, however, though, should not come from the government, or else you will get companies outsmarting government officials, which happens every single day, not every single hour of every single minute of every single hour of every single day. Companies are smarter than the government. The beginning of the show, we started off with a clip of also a bunch of people. I think Barack Obama was in there. I think Joe Biden was in there. I think Chuck Schumer was in there talking about raising taxes during a recession, which is what this bill does. Here's what they all said several years ago. Again, if you haven't already, click a little like button, a little share button, a little comment section. What do you think about spending money? Is this a cause with no constituency? I think Rush Limbaugh used to talk about this a lot. I'm paraphrasing, but would say things like, Democrats spend money aimlessly while Republicans lie about it. Essentially saying that there is no constituency in the government, Democrats or Republicans, about not spending money frivolously. Because I'm not blind to the fact that the last administration and the last Republican-held House and Senate also spent a crazy ton of money that we don't need to spend on things that we don't need to spend money on, and money that we didn't have. So I don't know. Let me know in the comment section. Is there a constituency for reckless spending? You've seen what reckless spending gets us: higher gas prices, higher inflation, all that sort of stuff. Anyways, doubling back here on what Barack Obama and Joe Biden and Chuck Schumer said in the past. Check this out.
The last thing you want to do is to raise taxes in the middle of a recession.
When the economy is in decline, you don't want to raise overall taxes.
I don't think during a time of recession you mess with any of the taxes or increase any taxes.
No one is going to want to raise taxes when we have a recession.
In an economy like this, the last thing we should do is raise taxes on the middle class.
There's a lot of people commenting, saying stuff about we are sending crazy amounts of money to Ukraine. Yeah, how about the southern border? Any money wanted to be spent there? We're sending money all over the place and spending more and more of it, none of which we have. So there's that. I want to get to actually the most important thing that's happening in this country right now. This is just a small example of a bigger problem that we have and are facing and that we need to solve, and probably is the most important thing if we don't solve it soon. And that is election integrity. I know people talk about this a lot, and I know people talk about stolen election and mail-in ballots and 2,000 mules and all of that sort of stuff. The bottom line here is, if nobody believes in the election system anymore, we don't have a country. I'm fine. I don't want to say fine. I'm not going to say fine, because I think policy-wise, the government has gotten so expansive that voting really does matter, and who wins elections really, really does matter a lot. But at the same time, I'm more okay with knowing that elections are secure and solidified. You go to a polling place, you show the polling person your valid ID, they cross-reference you with the county's registrar, they give you a paper ballot, you vote in private, you put it in a sealed envelope and stick it in there, nobody watches it. Poll watchers watch all of the physical ballots be counted. Of course, unless in circumstances in which you need a mail-in ballot, maybe you're an overseas military, or some very few cases. If all of those things were in place and we had secure voting that nobody questioned, and my candidates lost, I'm more okay with that than with what we have going on now with nobody believing any of the elections. The most recent iteration of this massive problem, and I think the biggest problem that we have, is in Los Angeles County. LADA George Gascon failed to, the recall effort to recall him, as he is a crazy person, failed to get enough signatures. Now I'm going to play this clip. This kind of sums it up pretty nicely, and then we're going to give you some statistics here about what usually happens in these recalls, and also some pretty big hypocrisy moments going on in this particular local election. Again, I know if you're watching from Wisconsin or somewhere that's not LA, you don't care about this, but you should, because it freaking matters in California. Voting is insane. Check this out.
The Los Angeles County Clerk's Office reported that the effort to recall Los Angeles District Attorney George Gascon has failed to collect enough valid signatures. The office rejected just under 200,000 signatures. That put the campaign about 45,000 signatures short of the required number. The office wrote, quote, "The petition has failed to meet the sufficiency requirements and no further action shall be taken on the petition." The clerk's office reported that about 88,000 signatures were not registered to vote, around 44,000 signed more than once, and 32,000 had a different address. People in support of the recall can examine the signatures within 21 days.
So here's the thing with that. You have to, one, believe that the county registrar is counting accurately. You have to, two, well, there's a couple things going on here. The recall effort of the LA district attorney, who is, again, decriminalizing crime, 28% of the signatures didn't match voter registration, weren't registered to vote, just didn't work, apparently, according to the Los Angeles County registrar, who I would imagine is teeming with lefties. Again, not making any accusations, I'm just saying 28% of signatures not matching is very high. If you're doing a recall effort and you need signatures and all that sort of stuff, usually around 20% is the number of signatures that are duplicates, not registered to vote, XYZ. 28%, again, is substantially higher than that by like a third, which is a problem and may take some looking into. Now, they have 21 days to go back to this, but again, the main problem here is that who believes the LA County Registrar's Office, especially when they're going to take this so seriously at the same time during elections, just spray ballots everywhere. Again, this is a bigger nationwide problem that we have, is that it doesn't seem like a lot of people have a ton of faith in the elections going forward, which is if we have one thing, we need that. Gascon, interestingly enough, tweeted this afterward: "Grateful to move forward from this attempted political power grab. Rest assured, LA County, the work hasn't stopped." There was a video that I thought of bringing on of LA District Attorney George Gascon. Maybe that'll be like a longer single issue podcast, because it is kind of fascinating. Him talking about him working with George Soros to find and identify district attorneys around the country, and all that sort of stuff. And that's a thing in and of itself. But I thought this part of the tweet was interesting. "My primary focus has been and will always be keeping us safe and creating a more equitable justice system for all." First things first, keeping us safe. He has not done that. LA crime, violent crime, has gone through the roof in Los Angeles County. He is not prosecuting people. He's just letting them out onto the streets. And those people, guess what, are reoffending. Who would have thought? Wow, just shocker right there. And then two, creating a more equitable justice system for all. Cool, that's not your job, Mr. DA. That's not what district attorneys do. District attorneys are set to follow the laws and prosecute people who break the law, not legislate. There are legislatures for that. But the two things that apparently he's focused on, one, he's just not doing, and two, isn't his job. If he said, "My main focus as the district attorney is to keep people safe and replace the engine in my 67 Mustang," the second one would be just as relevant as what he said in real life. So there's that. Geez, we're squeezing here. Moving on to this, I'm sure a lot of you are clicking on this link if you're watching to hear about Miss Cheney. Liz Cheney ousted from the House during a primary in Wyoming's only congressional seat. If you don't know about this, we're not going to relitigate the entire thing. Liz Cheney voted for impeachment the second time, is very, very hard on the whole January 6th thing. She's on the January 6th commission in the prime time, and her and Adam Kinzinger are dead set on making sure Donald Trump is held accountable, I guess. I don't even know what to help Democrats get politically elected. I don't even know what the objective of the January 6th committee is. I don't think any indictments are going to come out of it. I think everybody knows that there's no indictments coming out of it. Anyways, Liz Cheney, big time anti-Trumper, specifically from January 6th. Interestingly enough, too, and just to make sure we're at least trying to be as fair as possible, Liz Cheney voted with Donald Trump on pretty much everything. I think she had like a 96% conservative voting record while in the House. She'll be in the House until January. I forget when Congress people get sworn into office. But policy-wise, she voted with Trump on pretty much everything. It's specifically that day that she has a huge problem with. And again, I have a problem with how he handled things that day. I don't think he was acting in the best way as the president of the United States. I think Mike Pence did a lot that day that showed him to be, at least that day right there, a bigger leader. I don't even know what the right terminology is. Anyways, I have a lot of problems with how Donald Trump handled the January 6th thing. But at the same time, Liz Cheney decided that she's going to make it her sole ambition to, again, I don't know, indict him for. I don't know what the objective of the January 6th committee is. Anyways, she lost, but she said something kind of hilarious in her speech, her concession speech. I'll stop. Just watch this. Check this out.
The great and original champion of our party, Abraham Lincoln, was defeated in elections for the Senate and the House before he won the most important election of all. Lincoln ultimately prevailed, he saved our Union, and he defined our obligation as Americans for all of history.
Okay, so Liz Cheney is comparing herself to Abraham Lincoln. Interesting. I'm not going to belabor on this much more. Here's a clip from what's the Today Show? Where's Savannah Guthrie's on some channel? I forget which of the three big networks it is. Anyways, Liz Cheney, after losing her primary, was asked if she's going to run for president. The answer is kind of funny. Watch this.
Are you considering running for president yourself?
That's a decision that I'm going to make in the coming months, Savannah. I'm not going to make any announcements here this morning, but it is something that I'm thinking about, and I'll make a decision in the coming months.
So she's going to make a decision on whether she's going to run for president in the coming months. Interesting. Okay, cool. Good luck with that. I don't think that will work out well at all. Yeah, so she's gone. I saw like a thing of like Republicans that voted for impeachment, and a bunch of them had like X's on their faces, and there was like 2 left. I can't remember which Congress people there were, but I don't know. Kind of interesting. A lot of people laughing hilariously that Liz Cheney is considering a run for president. Let's see. Oh, yeah, we're going to end the day with something kind of funny. Kamala Harris adding another Kamala-ism to her repertoire of Kamala-isms. If you haven't seen this was a couple days ago. Kamala Harris talking about technology for some reason. We're not really sure what she's talking about. She's talking about speaking the same language, together, motivation, integrity, technology, growth, future, all of the buzzwords that Kamala Harris uses in kind of like how the lottery works, the ball's floating up in the air, and then she gets a ball and she uses this motivation. synergy together. That's how I think Kamala Harris assembles speeches in her head. Watch this. Let me know in the comment section, is this the best Kamala-ism? If you've been following the show for the last couple months, every time Kamala goes on some rambling screed, she has an entry into the Kamala-ism world, and we kind of compare which one's better. So let us know where you think this ranks on the Kamala-ism craziness component.
We know that we really are quite behind in terms of maximizing our collective understanding about how we will engage on the technology of today and what we can quickly and easily predict will be the technology over the next decades. So to maintain our position as the United States of America on this issue, it is critical that we work together to understand where we are, to recognize and have the courage to speak truth about what is obsolete, and then to partner to ensure that we are speaking the same language with the same motivation, inspired by the opportunity of it all, but then doing the work of updating how we have been talking and thinking about our exploration in space.
What? Did anyone follow that? So, the motivation of speaking of exploration in the same way of languages, moderating our systems and updating from the ground up in space. I don't know. Where do y'all think that remains on the Kamala Harris isms? I don't even know. Yeah, there's that. I'm getting a lot of comments, interesting kind of comments here regarding what I said a couple minutes ago, J6. Just to clarify, from a policy perspective, I liked a lot of the stuff that Donald Trump did. And I wasn't super excited about what happened on January 6th. That doesn't make me, well, I don't know. Well, you can call me whatever you want with that. I wish you would have come out earlier and stopped it earlier. That's it. That's what I think. And if you don't think that, that's fine. We can disagree on that. But at the same time, I think we probably would bond much on the policies of the former president. Anyways, interesting. So that'll do it for us today. Appreciate you sticking around, tuning in on this Wednesday morning. If you haven't already, would love a follow on any of your social media platforms. Just type in Jobob pretty much anywhere on your phone. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, any of your social media platforms. You'll be able to, continue the conversation. If you'd like to yell at me on the internet, that's where you do it the best. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place. There's some immigration numbers that are freaking fascinating, given the close of, or the coming close of the fiscal year. We will bring that to you tomorrow. All of you who have commented about my dad, appreciate that. This was a fun shirt. It says Malosi. That was his name. In the Samoan language, Malosi means strong, driven, forceful, impactful. And so, anyway, that's why I wore this shirt today. Appreciate you guys, all of you sending love in the comment section and the emails and the text line, all that sort of stuff. Appreciate you. We will see you tomorrow, same time, same place. God bless America.